This is a training session regarding the A-Systems Visual Bookkeeper New Company Startup Wizard. Whenever you start up a company using Visual Bookkeeper, you can use this simple wizard to enter the data for your new company. The New Company Startup Wizard is accessed by selecting the Wizard menu item from the Setup menu. The following screen will appear. Let's proceed with a description of the screens in the New Company Startup Wizard. Click the Next button, and the following screen comes into view. At this point, you will be prompted to gather the materials you will need to complete the functions in the Startup Wizard. Do not ignore this message. If you have all these materials on hand as you proceed with the wizard, you will be able to have your company up and running in Visual Bookkeeper in a very short time. Gather the required items and check off each item before proceeding to the next screen. Click the Next button and the following screen comes into view. Here is where you enter your company name, address, phone numbers, and tax identification numbers. Click Next and the following screen comes into view. Here you can enter your general ledger accounts and design your financial statement. If you chose to create this company using the Auto Create option, the preferred method, you will see a list of general ledger accounts already in the list box. These accounts all have 5-digit account numbers. If you chose to create a new company from scratch, you will notice that there are no general ledger accounts displayed in the list box. Also, you have the ability to specify the number of digits you wish to include in your general ledger account numbers. You may specify any number of digits, from 1 to 10. Please take care in determining the number of digits. A 5-digit GL account number is standard. To avoid lengthening data entry processes, it's probably a good idea to use 5 or fewer digits in your account number. Once you've created at least one general ledger account, the number of digits field becomes disabled and cannot be changed. To insert a new account, click on the Insert button. The following entry screen appears. Here you can enter the account number and the description of the new account. Specify whether the account will usually carry a debit or a credit balance, and indicate whether there is a special account type for this account. More help for this function is contained in the training session on entering GL accounts. After any account is entered, it should be inserted into the financial statement. In order to do this, select the Financial Statement Layout button. Here you can see all the line items that are currently set to appear on the financial statement. You may insert a new line item for your new account, or edit an existing master account line item and include your new account in the list of accounts to be totaled in this master. More help for this function is contained in the training session on designing financial statements. Click the Next button and the following screen comes into view. Now you have the opportunity of specifying which of your general ledger accounts will be used by Visual Bookkeeper for specific accounting purposes. If you selected to auto-create your company with a preset chart of accounts, these fields will already be filled in for you. If you selected to create your company from scratch, the fields will be empty and you will be required to fill them in. Please take care in assigning these default account numbers. They will be used by posting processes, and the transactions recorded to these accounts will be permanent. You may enter the same account number into multiple fields if you desire. Notice that some of the fields are preceded by an asterisk. Before continuing with the Startup Wizard, you must at the very least fill these highlighted fields with a valid general ledger account number. Click the Next button and the following screen comes into view. Here you can set up your system startup date. This is an important step and it should be done right the first time. From the information supplied in this step, the system creates more than a year's worth of fiscal periods. The 2 questions asked are very simple. Enter the month and year of your system startup date. This refers to the date you wish Visual Bookkeeper to begin providing financial statement information for your company. If you enter a date that is past, you will be required to enter and post all accounts payable, accounts receivable, and payroll information that's happened since this date in order to bring your books up to date. A Systems recommends that you specify either the current month or 1 month in the future. Make sure you specify the correct last month of your fiscal year. For most companies, this is December, but your company may end the fiscal year in September or some other month. When we click on the Next button, the system will create fiscal periods according to the dates we entered. The Vendor Entry window now comes into view. Here you can insert all your vendors using an abbreviated vendor entry screen. Let's click on Insert and add one new vendor. This is the Wizard Vendor Entry window. We can enter the vendor name, address, phone, fax, and email address. A much more detailed vendor entry screen is available from the Accounts Payable menu. But this screen will greatly speed up the process of entering many vendors for startup purposes. After we've entered all our vendors, we click the Next button. The Customer Entry window now comes into view. Here you can insert all your customers using an abbreviated customer entry screen. Let's click on Insert and add one new customer. This is the Wizard Customer Entry window. Just as we did in vendor entry, we can enter the customer name, address, phone, fax, and email address. Again, a much more detailed customer entry screen is available from the Accounts Receivable menu, but this screen will greatly speed up the process of entering many customers for startup purposes. After we've entered all our customers, we click the Next button. The Employee Entry window now comes into view. Here you can insert all your employees using an abbreviated employee entry screen. Let's click on Insert and add one new employee. This is the Wizard Employee Entry window. Just as we did in vendor and customer entry, we can enter the employee name, address, phone, fax, and email address. We can also enter some information about the employee, which will allow us to enter and process timesheets immediately after finishing with the Startup Wizard. This information includes birthday and hire date, gender and ethnicity, Social Security and driver's license numbers, marital status, tax withholding exemptions, and regular and overtime pay rates. Of course, a much more detailed employee entry window is available from the Payroll menu. But this screen will greatly speed up the process of entering many employees for startup purposes. After we've entered all our employees, we click the Next button. Now we are able to enter our open accounts payable invoices into the system. Let me explain this in greater detail. One of the steps coming up later in the Startup Wizard process is the process of providing beginning balances for all your general ledger accounts as of the startup period. One of these accounts will be the Accounts Payable GL account. In order to start out properly, the balance you enter for that Accounts Payable account should be supported by open invoices in the Accounts Payable system. This is where we enter those open invoices. That is, invoices which have open balances as of the system startup date. To enter an invoice, click on the Insert button. Here you will see an Invoice Entry window. The process of entering invoices will not be explained here, but in a separate training session on entering and processing accounts payable invoices. Once you have entered all your invoices, click the Next button. The wizard will post your invoices and print posting reports for you to keep. And then the following screen will be displayed. Now we are able to enter our open accounts receivable invoices into the system. One of the account balances we will be supplying later will be the Accounts Receivable GL account. In order to start out properly, the balance you enter for that accounts receivable account should be supported by open invoices in the accounts receivable system. This is where you enter those invoices. That is, invoices which have open balances as of the system startup date. To enter an invoice, click on the Insert button. Here you will see an invoice entry window. The process of entering invoices will not be explained here, but in a separate training session on entering and processing accounts receivable invoices. Once you've entered all your invoices, click the Next button. The wizard will post your invoices and print posting reports for you to keep, and then the following screen will be displayed. This is the final step of the new company startup wizard. Here you can enter account balances of all your general ledger accounts as of the startup period. The best way to do this is to have an audited or at least trustworthy financial statement as of the startup period on hand. Simply go down the list of accounts and enter the desired account balance for each of the GL accounts in the list. Once you have finished your entries, the total at the bottom of the screen should be 0, representing the fact that you've entered an equal number of credits and debits. If the total is not 0, the system will not allow you to click on the Next button to finish the wizard. If the entries are in balance and we click on the Next button, the system will post the startup transactions and print posting reports for you to keep, and then the following screen will be displayed. This marks the completion of the startup wizard process. Once you've gone through the wizard and posted some entries, the wizard doesn't like to be disturbed. However, you may need to wake him up again to finish an unfinished wizard session. If this is the case, simply ignore the wizard warning on this screen and click Continue. The wizard will awaken and once again help you through the startup process. This concludes this training session on using the new company startup wizard.